Alright everyone, it's about 90 degrees right now with near full humidity, so it's more like Florida weather than standard Vermont in May weather. Like usually the average is like upper 60s to low 70s this time of year, so yeah, I'm suffering a little bit and the pollen count's through the roof. But it's time for some important news. Of course, you've probably heard Trump is considering Joe Lieberman to head the FBI. I strongly oppose this. I wouldn't want to see Lieberman. I don't even want to see him in government. I don't want to see him gain any power, especially related to surveillance, because he's a total moralist. He's a fruitcake. I don't like him. He's got split loyalty as far as the U.S. goes, which is what it is. That happens in Congress a lot anyway. I don't like Joe Lieberman. Never have, never will. I don't fucking care. Sheriff Clarke has, meanwhile, taken a position as the Assistant Secretary for DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. You'll know Sheriff Clarke is sort of the tough-on-crime, sort of almost fatherly Fox News contributor or something. I have split feelings about Clarke. In that role, I suppose, because it relates to immigration, Trump is signaling, yes, I want to take a hardline approach on immigration. I need full cooperation here. I'm putting Sheriff Clarke in this position. I can understand why. And this sort of leads into the next video I'm going to make, which is fair versus unfair criticism of Trump. Because I've got people that aren't even Coulter fans jumping down my throat again on that token. I'm sure the Ben Shapiro fans will do the same when I call him out. There's a difference between criticizing Trump in a fair manner, as I've done a half a dozen fucking times. I'll go through them one by one and tell you my concerns with his presidency, versus being a total dick rag and complaining about things that you obviously, you can't possibly know anything about him, or you're just shilling at that point. And that's where I think Ann Coulter lies. And I'll spell it out for you exactly why I think that. So you can air your neocon grievances or your whatever grievances on that video, I suppose. As far as Joe Lieberman goes, why is he even being he's not really qualified for that role. He's not qualified to be a dog catcher. I'd be rather uncomfortable. I think there are people that are more qualified than Joe Lieberman that could head the FBI, like pick any random citizen in the United States. Here we've got someone, a severe moralist, somebody who in sort of the earlier video game era was one of these sort of people at the time, sort of a Tipper Gore, only male, marginally so, I suppose. Talking about, oh, it's going to destroy society, it's so violent. We're talking like the GTA 3 era. We're talking about PS2 graphics. And Joe Lieberman comes out and rambles about how it's going to cause crime, it's going to cause violence. You want that to head the FBI? You want some moralist like that to head the FBI? Someone who had a problem like state of emergency for the PS2 era? We're talking the early 2000s, the end of the 90s. We're not even talking about like actually realistic modern gaming. We're talking about stuff that was one step removed from the N64 in total Lego brick mode or something like that. Oh wow, it's so three-dimensional, like they almost have a recognizable facial structure. We're talking like GoldenEye 007, he would have had a problem with that too. Oh, it has like little red splotches appear when you shoot the Russians and stuff. Therefore, it's too violent for our kids. We need to rate this like XXX and make it like 30 plus to play it, and then only like under surveillance or something. Like, that's the kind of person Joe Lieberman is. So I don't know why he's even being considered. Now, thankfully, Trump hasn't made that decision yet. There are several other people he's interviewing for the possible position. Hopefully, it's not Joe Lieberman. This would be sort of like when he was going to pick his vice president. Other names were thrown around along with Mike Pence. Now, Pence I put down on the low rung. But lower than Pence would have been somebody like Chris Christie. That would have really, really been a problem. By the way, that would have endangered his ability to win the election, all things considered. Chris Christie, you know, when you have a vice president, potentially, at the time, who generates his own gravity, could be a little bit of a problem. Also, wouldn't have added anything to the Trump ticket, because he was like a big city, sort of, you know, left coast individual, you know, sort of the tycoon politics figure. It wouldn't have added anything unique to Trump. He needed to pick someone like Pence, who's more like hayseed mode or something like that from the Midwest. And that's why he chose him. But Sheriff Clarke I can at least understand, with reservations about his character myself. But I can understand the wisdom of putting him in that position, especially coming out and doing it very visibly and making sure people know, yes, indeed, Sheriff Clarke, beloved by even the neocons, will be in this position. That's a good one. From a strategy standpoint. Not necessarily a moral standpoint. Strategy-wise, it's good. Lieberman, maybe Trump's just doing that same thing that he did before with some of his picks,
where he puts someone forth who's obviously not qualified. Please, please, Trump, don't pick this individual, so that who he actually intends to pick, and he's already made up his mind, is somebody who's maybe not terribly better, but looks stellar in comparison to like the dreg that he very visibly spoke about before, which in this case would be Lieberman. He did this before with like, I think, Secretary of State. He was talking about, oh, maybe Romney would be okay, and people are like, don't you fucking choose Mitt Romney. And so then he chooses somebody who's not Romney. And it doesn't matter who it is, even if they're not the greatest person. They look good by comparison because they're being compared to Mitt the Twit, you know, Mitt Rommel. That would be the case, I hope, with putting Lieberman's name out there for the public consumption. That people will say, oh, anybody but Lieberman, so then when it turns out to be somebody other than Lieberman, they're okay with that individual. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Lieberman and Sheriff Clarke. The latter's fine. Not the greatest, but fine. The former, yeah, that would rankle so many people. It would be almost legendary to see people's response, though. If he actually put Lieberman, moralist that he is, in as head of the FBI. Didn't he have ties to Clinton, too? Like, yeah, I wonder where his loyalties lie. Probably with the Loretta Lynches of the world, which means there's not a huge chance, I think, that he actually gets chosen for the position. Thankfully, because there will be so much outcry from his core fans over the idea of putting him in that position. That's about all. Peace out.